Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, episode 27.
And I don't believe that anyone can tell you how well your body works other than, yourself if you know your body.
It's time to reverse the imbalances in your life as you take the first step on your own journey towards personal change. Welcome to Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, educating, empowering, and inspiring individuals to live healthier. Now here are your hosts and your guides to natural living, Jamal and Kim.
Hi, Kim and Jamal here, and welcome to another episode of Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe podcast. We have another great interview for you this week. Today, we are joined by Hope Robinson. Hope, are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
All right, great. And I want to say, before we begin, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to sharing your powerful message and experience with our community today.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to have you on. How you doing, Hope?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, we just did a show, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and we had on Maha.
Right. It was episode 15.
Yeah, episode 15, and we spoke about just the healing powers of birth on so many different levels, and we spoke about so many different aspects of birth, and we have a lot of our clients at our holistic center that struggle with different aspects of it, and they want to conceive and they want to have things a certain way. So I know that this will definitely appeal to them, and I know that your story will inspire a lot of people. So really looking forward to telling your story today. And I just want to say this is a little different. Normally we have on specialists and practitioners and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so now we're bringing on, a mom who, she's a specialist in her own right,
yes.
But not through, the education system. She's a specialist through life,
through experience,
through life experience,
mm-hmm.
So it's a good opportunity to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive in, Hope, what we like to do is just have our listeners know a little bit more about you before we dive in. Hope Robinson is a 29-year-old proud mother of 3 beautiful girls. Her latest addition naturally made her transition into this world 3 weeks ago. It was something she dreamed of doing someday, but never had the audacity to do. It was an experience she'll never forget. So, Hope, can you first share, your birth experience, your birth story?
Sure. Well, as you already know, but I wanted to have a natural birth, for a while. I'm actually the third child of 10 children, and my mom had us all natural. So, of course, it was only right that, being a mom, I would have a natural birthing experience. And it didn't happen quite the first time how I wanted it to, but on this time around, I actually was getting in touch with midwives, trying to get in touch with midwives so I can go through the process of having a home birth. That's something simple, not a natural birth. And I wasn't successful with that because I was so late into my pregnancy, but as time ran its course, I ended up going into labor, actually January 6th. I'll never forget this.
Wow. Yeah. Well, first, let me just say congratulations on that.
Mm-hmm. And, congratulations.
And before you dive into your incredible story, because it is incredible, why don't we back up a bit? Why don't you tell us about your first pregnancy with your C-section? Because I know that you wanted to have a natural home birth from the beginning. So to go from that to a C-section, I'm sure you weren't happy to have to do that. And how did that come about? Can you start from the beginning and tell us about your journey as far as your first pregnancy?
Sure. Yeah. So this was back in 2007. I was a first-time mom, pregnant, and had a very healthy pregnancy. All was going well, and at around 35 weeks, we discovered the baby was breech. Mm. And I was told about all the the difficulties of birthing a breech baby, and how it wasn't safe. And, the doctors definitely, this was my first time ever hearing about a C-section. I wasn't, didn't have too much knowledge on it, but, I was educated a little on the methods taken, for a C-section when a baby is breached, and I was given other options as well. And so, of course, I went with the first option. To have a version is, a procedure they do to try to turn the baby. Mm-hmm. And I was told then that, even then doing this, that if the baby heart rate dropped too low, they would have to do an emergency C-section. Gratefully the baby's heart rate was going up the whole time, but, she still didn't turn. And after about 3-4 tries, of them doing this, and it's a pretty, pretty painful, them turning the baby. And, she turned back, and I literally felt her turning, and I felt her flip right back.
Wow.
And, so it was a little discouraging. And so I was told about in 2 weeks, so this happened maybe around 37 weeks, and I was told in the next 2 weeks, if she hadn't turned that, they would go ahead and do a C-section. And, of course, as a first-time mom, I'm just like, I'm just ready to see my baby, go ahead, whatever you have to do, just, get her out, to be all fast and everything.
I'm sure they kind of scared you into feeling that way, right?
Yes, definitely. That's exactly how I felt, of course, being aware now of how, I wasn't really given the opportunity to, just allow the baby time to turn on her own, or, too many other opportunities. It was just kind of like, you definitely don't want to, in more words or less, a retarded baby, or, she loses too much oxygen, she can have brain damage. And, as a first-time mom, of course, that's not something that you as a mom, period, that's not something you want to hear.
Right.
Or take the risk of your child with. And that's not something I was willing to accept or take the risk at, and, even my mom told me she had one of my siblings, and, he was breached, and they told her that he would be mentally retarded. And, he came out perfectly fine. She delivered him breech first, and he was a scholar student, so the chances of it happening, but, of course, someone scaring you into it the first go around versus someone who's been having kids, and, your faith is there to actually deliver a breached child. That's something. Anyhow, I decided to go along with the C-section, January 25th of 2007. And, I was excited at first. I had heard so many different stories. Oh, it's so much easier than labor, and, you're not going to have to worry about anything. Just lay there and they do all the work for you. You don't have to push the baby. They just take the baby out, and, everything happens so fast, and before you know it, you'll be home. And, it just sounded like a
fairy tale.
Yeah, it really did sound like a terrific thing. And I was just like, yes, I know I made the best decision. And, I was excited. They started the procedure, and, this was my first time ever in the hospital or having any type of surgery or anything this serious. And, I wasn't scared. I was just, ready to see the baby. However, all of that changed after they, I felt them. I was awake for them to cut the baby out, cut my son again, take the baby out. And I cried a little when I seen the baby. And then, after that, I just remember slowly blacking out.
Wow.
And when I woke up, it was very scary because it was like I blacked out, and, time went by. I'm not even sure how long. And then I woke back up, and, they were preparing me to take me out of, clean me up and everything. And the doctor was asking me, can I wiggle my toes? And I'm just looking around like, okay, where's the baby? What's going on? What happened?
Yeah.
And, I couldn't wiggle my toes. I couldn't move my lower body. And, of course, I was a little scared about all of that. And they're like, oh, it's normal. It's just anesthesia. Basically, they give you the epidural, and then they give you, it numbs you from the waist down. So you're literally like paralyzed. And, you sign paperwork saying that if anything goes wrong, which in some cases it has, you could end up paralyzed for the rest of your life, or, so many different things could go wrong during these procedures that they don't really educate you about or talk you through.
Right.
So it's almost like you're signing your life away. And I realized that, than after the fact. But, you know, I was very scared. I was in so much pain. And they were telling me, like, okay, you know, it'll wear off a little at a time, and you'll get the feeling back to your feet. You'll slowly get the feeling back to your feet and, you know, your lower limbs. And, you know, they gave me a little button to press for morphine. It was just like, you know, when you feel, you know, too much intense pain, just press the button.
And it automatically gave you just hit you with the morphine?
And it automatically hit me with the morphine.
It was a morphine tap.
Whenever you wanted it.
Whenever I wanted it. And I was in so much pain that I was just hitting that button. I was hitting it so much that the nurse had to come in to let me know, like, you have to give it time to to start all over again, because we don't want you to, you know, overdose or anything or put too much in. But I couldn't believe the amount of pain that I was in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've always credited myself to be to be high. I tolerate pain very high. But this was just something else. I mean, I was in so much pain. And so eventually my feeling came back to my toes and, you know, got the feeling back. And they wouldn't let me hold the baby because I was still woozy from the medication. And so I didn't even really get to enjoy the first experience of, you know, having my child. Or, you know, I kept going in and out. You know, I've heard people around me, but it was kind of like a dream. You don't know if it really happened or if it was really happening. And, you know, I could see my mom and everyone around talking and holding the baby. And then I finally came back around maybe 5-6 hours later. I came, you know, back to my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And again, all I could feel was this pain, and I was just still really, really sore. And I decided, okay, now I know what the green button does. I'm not going to press it. I'm going to just try to, you know, work through this pain.
Yeah.
And just for me to breathe, I could feel, you know, the incisions. It felt like I was just going to pop open. And, you know, I couldn't cough. It was like pain. Anything that I did was so painful. You know, to sneeze. I remember I sneezed. I just started crying immediately.
Yeah.
It hurt so bad, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And I said this is the first word out of my mouth. I said, no one told me about the after part of the C-section.
Right. Yeah.
No one told me this. And you know, my dad was there. He's a very humorous person. And he was, you know, talking and saying things and, you know, trying to lighten me up. And I was laughing, and I just was crying and laughing at the same time. And my mom's like, stop, don't make her laugh, because, you know, you're making her, you know, she's in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And then I had gas, you know, I guess from them opening up my stomach, you know, gas is in the body now. And it was the worst gas that I've ever had in my life. I was laying there, and you could literally see the gas moving around in my stomach. And it looked like a baby moving around.
Wow.
It was really scary. And, of course, you know, they gave me a couple of suppositories and was trying to do everything to help me release the gas. Could not release the gas. I was in so much pain. And, of course, with gas feeling you and then having a new incision, so it's pushing against the incision. And it was just painful. And so they're telling me, oh, you have to walk, you know, to help you get rid of it. I could not even walk. I believe my mom ended up warming me up chicken broth, and I remember drinking those hot chicken broth, and I think that's what helped me kind of release some of the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I had to take my first shower, and it was just all, it was a very traumatic experience for me, very traumatic. Just feeling helpless, not being able to move on my own, needing assistance with everything, and I'm a very, you know, independent person. My mom was literally washing me in the shower like a baby, like, and I was just in there crying. Like, I could not stop crying because I couldn't believe the experience that I was having.
Right.
I just could not believe it. And then, you know, afterwards to try to walk, they wanted me to walk around the hospital to kind of get my everything working back again. And again, that was another painful, really painful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to this day, you know, my body still suffers from the I have the lower back pain or the pain in my spine, and just losing feeling in my toes or in my legs. Sometimes I remember the first time I noticed it, I was driving and the car was slowing down, And I'm thinking I'm going the same speed as everyone. And I notice I'm slowing down. And I'm like, hold on, my foot is on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized that I lose feeling in my feet. I lose feeling in my toes sometimes, and I don't know. And, of course, I can't blame anything except my whole experience of having, you know, them put this medication in my spine that affected my lower body and my, you know, my feet, losing feeling in my feet. And I get the tingling feeling and the jolting sensation, and all of this from just bringing a baby into this world. And, you know, it's like no one told me. So after that experience, I certainly was like, I don't ever want to experience that again. You know, even the recovery to it, the recovery home, I needed assistance. My mom was there, my sister was there, my husband. You know, I really needed hands-on. I couldn't even take care of the baby by myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was told they sent me home, of course, with a bunch of medications, and was just like, oh, you can take, you know, the pain medications. I believe they prescribed me narcotics pretty much, you know, and then they also was trying to prescribe me postpartum medicine, because I literally was like having postpartum depression from all of this.
Right, I would imagine.
So they tried to prescribe me Zoloft and, you know, I believe the morphine or it was something else that was really, really strong. And I told them that I didn't want to take it because I wouldn't be able to be a fit mom. I was like, well, how am I going to, you know, recover and take care of a newborn?
Right.
And I'm like literally like out of my mind or sleep, you know, all the time. And so, you know, I definitely didn't take that. But, of course, I was literally limping around the house. I could barely, you know, I needed help getting out the bed, help getting in the bed, help using the bathroom. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
And they tell you about 4 to 6 weeks to recover. Maybe about 8 weeks, I can say that I recovered. But I say it took my body about maybe 2-3 years just for my stomach bend, to feel my stomach bend, because I remember I would be doing sit-ups and I couldn't feel my stomach bend, you know, going across your stomach.
Yeah.
You couldn't feel the muscles, and that was scary to me. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm saying this because I was a person grew up, never took medication, never took, you know, anything, you know, never was in the hospital or never had any type of situation like this. So I knew my body. I know, you know, I could feel the things that were out of place. You know, I can just feel all of this. I couldn't exercise the way I wanted to. It was very, very heartbreaking for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, it definitely made me feel like that wasn't something that I would ever do again. You know, and from that point on, I said, if I ever have another child, you know, I'm going to have a natural birth.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, they told me that after having C-sections, most women, you know, you're not able to give birth naturally anymore. And this is really what they tell you. You know,
Right.
It's not possible, or they don't want to risk it. You know, it's a very high risk. And this is how they made me feel, like, you know, this was impossible for me to ever have a natural birth.
That is what they tell women. And, you know, a lot of people, they kind of put their entire health and being in the words of their medical doctor, and that's the word. So there's so many women that don't even consider or explore anything after that, because they're told that it's impossible. And you know, that were you about to say something?
So, you know, as for mothers, you're in such a vulnerable state when you're pregnant. You know, anytime anyone tells you that your baby is going to be injured or harmed, or you're going to do what they say. And I think they take advantage of a lot of mothers that way.
Yeah.
But I think
agree.
In Hope's instance, she had the experience of having the C-section, experiencing everything that comes after it. You know, she knew, like, I don't care what you tell me, I'm not going back to that anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? But a lot of mothers don't have that to reference. You know what I mean?
And also, just going back a bit in your story, you know, one of the things that we knew, and it really just came to light when we did the interview with Maha, that, you know, childbirth and what women go through is a spiritual experience. You're having a spiritual experience. So for them to, just kind of just make C-sections out to be like this simple procedure, you know what I mean? They're kind of taking away the spiritual aspect of it, because that's a part of your power, a part of your womanhood, to be able to, have that childbirth and not make it out to be a surgery, because a C-section it's major surgery. I mean, the levels of tissue that they have to cut through and moving organs aside and things of that nature, like it's a major surgery. And, that is, one thing that I dislike about the medical industry. There are things that I do like about it, but that's one of the things that I dislike, is that they make these very complex procedures seem so simple, so that they kind of influence you to make these decisions. Like they'll tell you, oh, we'll just remove this organ. It's not a big deal. It's a simple procedure. We'll do it in a day. And meanwhile, it's this, major repercussions that we have because of those things.
They don't look at the after effects. Like it's quick to do the procedure, but the after effects that the person has to deal with in terms of recovery, that's never truly exposed. Like Hope was saying, like no one told me about the discomfort and pain I'll be experiencing for weeks after the fact.
And years.
Yeah, and years.
Yeah.
Another thing I would like to touch on with the VBAC, or the vaginal birth after cesarean, as Hope was saying, in the medical industry, in the Western medical industry, it is spoken about after you have a cesarean that you cannot have a vaginal birth. But I always like to pose the question, scar tissue is stronger than anything. And when you have an incision for a cesarean, that scar tissue is so strong. How can that separate? That's the whole thing. They're saying, oh, you might tear at the incision point. And I just think, how does that make any sense? Me personally, just my opinion.
So yeah, people are scared into not even considering it. And what was your experience with your second birth? Like you already made your mind up. The doctors told you that you couldn't do it, but in your mind you thought that you could. Tell us about it.
Oh, so I knew for sure, for certain that I was not having another C-section. It was to the point where I felt like, look, y'all could put me in a crazy house before I let anyone cut me open. That was just how I felt. And, I had a doctor that was actually cutting happy. That's what they called her, the cutting happy doctor. Wow. It seems like all of her patients, they were all having C-sections. And, so it made me aware that, not only, what you all were saying, is that a lot of people are uneducated about C-sections and, the terminology they use. And, that's one thing they were telling me, the scar tissue, we have to watch you, and, scar tissue could tear, and this, whatever can happen, this can happen. And, it was just something that I had to experience for myself, being pregnant. And, thankfully it was 6 years after I had the C-section, so I did have time to actually heal. Again, I carried full term, and around the time that I was due, the baby didn't come. So they were looking at me now like, oh yeah, you're definitely gonna have to have a C-section, and I'm just like, no, I'm willing to wait. And thankfully, my doctor was out of town the week. What happened? She was out of town the week that I, was due, and I believe she had stripped my membranes to kind of help try to push me along into, going into labor. And maybe a day or two after she stripped them, she told me that if I didn't have the baby by that Monday when she returned from her vacation, that they were going to go ahead and induce me, and go ahead and tried to allow me to have this baby naturally, if hopefully if anything didn't happen, and, they wouldn't have to have an emergency C-section. They kept throwing that at me like, oh, we may have to just perform an emergency C-section. And that was just terrifying to me. Like, why do they want me to have a C-section so bad? And then you learn, C-sections are way more expensive than natural birth.
Oh, yeah. 3-4 times as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, they could schedule it on their terms, and, And then, another thing, people say, oh, you can choose the birthday of your baby. Or to me, all of that is not even worth it.
Right.
Exactly.
At all. So I had with the natural alternative, and I was actually in labor. One Saturday night, I was up painting my fingernails, and I didn't know I was in labor because I never got to experience labor, of course, because I had a scheduled C-section. Mm-hmm. So it never allowed my body time to, to prepare for a baby to come out. I missed that experience, and that's another thing that saddened me, about having a C-section. I didn't have that experience, so it was all new to me. I wasn't aware that I was in labor until maybe, this was around like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm up watching TV, painting my fingernails, and I decided, okay, then I'll try. Let me go and try to lay down, and went and tried to lay down, and I felt a popping sensation, and it was like the onset of my labor. I was literally on the bathroom floor, and then I went in the living room, and I was laboring. And woke my husband up, and I started having the hot and the cold flashes. And I told myself, my mom told me, if you're ever in labor, make sure you take a shower before you go to the hospital, because you're not going to have time to do that. So
That's a mom response.
I had time to, take a shower and everything. Went and took a shower, and, by now my contractions were a lot more stronger. I decided, my husband and I decided, okay, let's go to the hospital. He's like, let's get you to the hospital now. And by the time I got to the hospital, I was at 8.5 centimeters. And not realizing that I was pretty much almost there.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, oh my gosh, I need medicine. I was like, this is a lot. I really, really need medicine. And, they gave it to me surprisingly. I've heard stories where they would tell you that you're a little too far into labor, to have the medication. But they did give me the medication, and it kind of slowed down the contractions and the pain. You still feel it, but it's not as strong. And within an hour or two, I was actually pushing the baby out. Mm. And the only part about that was that, they were telling me, oh, push. And I couldn't feel anything.
Right.
Because I was numb. So I felt nothing, and I didn't know what I was pushing,
right.
If I was pushing with the proper muscles or not. And they're, all trying to cheer me on, like, no, push. And I'm just like, I'm pushing. And, it wasn't until after that experience that I realized I didn't need the medication.
Right.
Like, why did I even ask for medication? And of course, in my head, I was always afraid of how it would feel to push the baby out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I realized that the medicine, it slowed my body down. It
right.
actually, stopped my body from doing what it's naturally supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it definitely messed a lot of things up for me because, after all of that happened, especially speaking from this experience now, I feel like the recovery time was a lot longer as well after having medicine injected in me because, like I said, it slowed my body down, and I wasn't able to do what I was, made to do. But I've had a healthy baby.
Yeah.
And I felt successful because I was just like, oh, I did have I had a successful VBAC and, no problems, no complications, none at all. And I was very happy about that. But like I said, I was like, okay, now that I know I can labor, I'm definitely not having any medicine, the next time. I can do it
right.
without all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely my goal for my next child. Not only that, I wanted a home birth. I figured I was just like, if I have a home birth, I can control a lot more at home. I have a midwife and I'm at home, and I don't have to be up under the doctor's care of what, they're going to try to intimidate me with or make me feel like it's medically necessary. And
right.
Because I'm not medically educated on a lot of things, of course, that they know, of course you feel, you feel like you have to go along, or like the doctors know best.
Right.
However, I like to remind myself and others that, they're practicing medicine. Any doctor's office you go to, it's a practice.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think that people are fully aware of that. They think that their word is law, or like, they went to school all these years, for this, so they must know. And it's like, no, you can educate yourself as well.
Absolutely. And you need to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say really quick, because I know you're about to transition into your third story. First two stories, incredible.
Yes.
And you're this journey that you're going on is you're touching on all of the areas that, women have concerns with that are normally isolated incidences, and you've dealt with them all. So, this story is amazing. And I just want to just jump back a bit during your second pregnancy, some of the things that you spoke about that women are not aware of that I think is important to point out. You decided to go ahead with the VBAC, which is a power decision, and then your doctor talking about inducing, and whenever you induce labor, it intensifies the contractions, and there is a higher chance of you actually wanting to take the drugs that they offer you. And then you spoke about actually taking the drugs, which actually, like you said, it causes a disconnect between you and your body. And a lot of times for some women, it will actually lead to a C-section because they're so disconnected from their bodies. So, we definitely congratulate you for kind of pushing, through that, even though your contractions had slowed down and it extended your labor. Imagine during that process, if you didn't do the drugs, you probably would have had, the baby a lot sooner. A whole lot sooner. So, so that's amazing. And then, so that brought you to your next revelation of knowing like, okay, I need to have more control over this situation. I need to be at home. So why don't you share with us that journey?
Okay. So, I wanted to birth at home. Like I said, it wasn't until later into the pregnancy that I realized, from my past experiences, and also, while I was actually pregnant, going to the doctor and, hearing the things that they were saying, and, oh, well, we still have to watch you, and, they still were kind of trying to scare me with, at this point, you couldn't scare me because I knew that it was possible that I could have a successful vaginal delivery. However, I just didn't even want to I lost my whole desire to seek doctors because, every doctor that I spoke with or, that I came in contact with, kind of got the feeling like, they know what's best. Mm-hmm. You're the patient and you don't know anything and you shouldn't have a say in what they're telling you. And so that didn't sit well with me. So, that definitely helped push the whole, I'd rather have a midwife, someone who's going to respect my desire, respect me as a patient, or, me as a mom, another mom to be carrying a baby, and just respect my wishes. By now I had researched a whole lot into birthing and, into delivering a baby and, things that I didn't do with my first two experiences. So I pretty much knew what I wanted and, was just trying to now put it into play. And it was very late into my pregnancy that I was trying to do this. Maybe 30, I was already, I believe, into my third trimester. And I felt a little discouraged because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a support system, things didn't work out successfully with the midwife and my insurance. And it was just like, oh man, what am I going to do? And by now my baby was, the due date was coming up and made the due date. And I was told, well, a little before my due date, I had an appointment that Monday, and I believe that Wednesday I would have been turning 40 weeks, would have been my due date.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that if the baby didn't show any progress, they were going to do some ultrasounds and run some stress tests. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, this is just all an excuse to work up to saying, you have to have a C-section.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that I wanted, and then the very next week, the baby turned 41 weeks. And so missed the due date. And by now I was ready for her to come. I really was like in a lot of pain, just carrying the baby. And, at this point I was just still very had a very strong mind. Like, you know what? I know I'm uncomfortable, but she'll be here soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stay pregnant forever.
Right.
And it's all a mental, a positive, having a positive and a mental, understanding your mental capacity, your mindset. Like, look, I can't be, have any negative thoughts about this,
Right.
that anybody could catch me in a vulnerable state and talk me out of how I already feel or try to make it easier. No, and that's what I, had already told myself. And, so I was at home. I woke up, let me see, I want to say I was like in pre-labor, because that Monday I missed my appointment because I was out of town, and I had already started having like contractions, and my contractions they were consistent at first,
Mm-hmm.
but then they weren't regular. The frequency of them weren't regular. And, I got back home because I'm like, okay, I may have to go to the hospital, and they stopped. And so I was just like, wow. But I would still have a contraction every now and again. And, it just wasn't consistent enough for me to even go to the hospital with. So that Wednesday, I called in that Tuesday or whatever, and, I had to schedule an appointment. And they were like, oh, we want you to come in the next day. And I was hoping they were going to say like Thursday or Friday, because I'm like, okay, at least I'll have time.
Right.
The baby may come. And they're like, no, you're going to be 41 weeks tomorrow. You have to come in tomorrow. We have to make sure the baby is okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, the baby is okay. I know that. I feel her moving around.
Yeah. I've
had no complications. I've, seen a little bit of my mucus plug here and there. But it wasn't enough of it for me to be like, oh, I see my bloody show. And I think that's what I was looking for. I was looking for little telltale signs from, my first, my last pregnancy, last labor, something to kind of tell me like, I'm moving along. And, I wasn't getting that. So it was kind of a little, unnerving to me to feel like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. So I really do kind of want to go to the doctor so they could tell me what's going on. And then again, I didn't, because I didn't want them, to try to induce labor. Like you said, the effects of inducing labor is not only it's not only bad for mom, but it's really, really bad for the baby. So that's not something that I was willing to go along with either. It was, right. I still desired to allow the baby to come when she was ready to come. And so that morning, I wasn't looking forward to it, because Wednesday at 2:00 I had to go to the doctor. That morning, I was up maybe like around 5, and I couldn't sleep, tossing and turning. And then like 6 going into 7, I started feeling what I would say are real contractions. And I was just like, oh no, these are real. I remember this feeling right here. And I was just telling my husband, and I started timing them a little bit after 7. I was timing them, but they still seem irregular to me, because I remember from the last time, like I said, I was looking at, compare my experiences to the last time to say, okay, so last time, when I was timing it, they were more consistent and they were moving more forward. What they tell you, oh, you want them to be to 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And that wasn't happening for me. I would have one like every 10 minutes, and then it would be like every 8 minutes, and then it would go back to every 10 minutes, and the duration would be maybe about a minute here, 3 minutes there. The contractions were literally lasting this long. And, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with this. And I, I lined my bed, and I lined the floor and I was, laboring on my bed. And then when I would go into, have a strong contraction, I would get on the floor in a position where, would help me kind of be able to tolerate the intensity of the contraction.
Yeah.
Because it's not as painful as people make it. I think if you panic, it becomes more painful.
Mm-hmm.
But, relaxing, and that's something that can be very hard to do, especially for people who say, oh, I can't tolerate pain.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you can tolerate pain, it's just, relaxing, trusting your body to relax and listening to your body. And that's what I had to tell myself. Like, Hope, just calm down and, listen to your body and allow yourself to relax. And like I said, I had I believe you all called me maybe about 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half after, all of this was taking place, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And, I spoke to you and, I started having a pretty strong contraction while I was talking to you. Mm-hmm. And, just hearing you encouraging me to, tell me to focus and, reminding me to focus, because all of that really matters in that state, when you're in that place, to be able to breathe and it's something that you won't remember to do if, you don't have the right people around to tell you, to do this. And, I had my husband there and, I would have covers on during the breaks of the contraction because you're cold and I'm shivering. And then I would take the covers off when I start having a contraction. I'm like, fan me. He would begin to fan me. And, it's so funny because, all is that you see these movies of how labor actually occur. Yeah. And you think that that's how labor really happens. Right. I mean, even down to the, you screaming and you want to rip his head off. And, it's not that serious, but I can kind of relate because I remember he was fanning me a certain type of way and just the sound of the paper was annoying me. I'm like, no, stop. You can't fan that way. Fan the other way. So he started fanning the other way. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I'm like apologizing to him at the same time because it's like, and he's like, babe, stop apologizing. Like, you're fine. And I'm just like, I feel so bad because you don't know how to control those emotions or those feelings. But, again, you have his mind over matter. You have full control. I told myself I have full control over this. Like I said, listening to you guys and hearing you literally, and I feel that it was the energy you sent me as well to push me through that last part of the labor. I didn't realize I was that far into labor. Because after I got off the phone with you, I lost my mucus plug. Literally lost my mucus plug, bloody show, all within a matter of 10, 20 minutes. And next thing you know, my husband was telling me, Hope, come on, stand up so we could go to the hospital. And I'm like, and he's trying to help me he literally had my shirt open to help me put it over my head. And I was like, okay, hold on one last time. And I'm trying to, deal with the last contraction that I had. And I went to try to stand up and I was like, hold on one more second. And I got back down and I was literally like on all fours, in my birthday suit. I was not playing. I was serious. I was on my birthday suit and I had, some checks I had purchased and, I, was walking back and forth. I had pillows in front of me. So, it was very comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And it made everything very easy for me. And I went to get up to put my shirt on and I literally felt the baby head. I felt something there and I was like, no, babe. I was like, we're not going to make it. He's like, no, don't say that. We are going to make it. Like, no, we're not.
He's like, wait a minute now.
Yeah. And so I got back down and I was like, come look, and he came around and he looked and he's like, oh, no, what is that? And he's like, no. He's like, Hope, stop pushing. I'm like, I'm not pushing. And so, then I had another contraction and I literally felt the baby like sliding out. Like it was like I had no control at this point because it all just was happening. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to 1, 2, 3 push. The baby just was coming. And he was there, and he literally caught the baby. By the time I turned around and looked, he was holding the baby. Nice. And I was just in shock, like surprised, like, oh my gosh. I felt bad at first. I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do this. Like, I really wanted to get to the hospital. And it's funny because they told me at the hospital, where I was receiving prenatal care, they were telling me, from my last experience when I was telling them that I didn't know I was in labor, they were like, oh, well, make sure you come in as soon as you you start having contractions, don't wait till if your water break come in. You know, they were telling me, they were just like, yeah, come in, don't wait until you're crowning. And in my mind, it was just like, no, I'm waiting till I'm crowning to come in, because I don't want you all to try anything or, you know, feel that you're going to, you know, because they told me especially like, oh, you know, we may have to perform a cesarean section a lot of time, you know, the scar tissue rip, or you may, you know, hemorrhage on the inside, or, you know, this may happen, that may happen. And I didn't want any of that. But, you know, I delivered the baby right here.
Yes.
And it was a very amazing experience, because it was just like, as I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, I didn't do anything. Right. I literally labored for maybe 4.5 hours. And, you know, I want to credit all that to the fact that, you know, I hear people say all the time, oh, you know, I've gotten this while I was pregnant as well. Oh, don't do that, girl. You're doing too much. Like, you know, you pregnant, you know, even in the grocery store. Who's going to bring your bags? Who's going to carry your bags for you? I'm like, oh, I am. Oh, girl, I would not be doing that if I was pregnant. And I say all of this to say, thank you, sweetie. I say all of this to say that, you know, being active is the best thing you can do with being pregnant. I'm not one to be inactive at all. Yeah. But I want to credit my being active to being able to labor so, you know, for my labor to be so easy. Because, again, first time I had the successful VBAC, I labored 5 hours. And it was, you know, very easy. And like I said, if I didn't need the medication. I didn't know that at the time. But like you said, it definitely would have been a quicker birth. Right. And this one was just as easy. You know, it was just as easy. And again, like I said, I credit it to walking, exercising, and just being active and not sitting around and not doing anything. It definitely gives you the what you need to be able to make it through the labor, right? And to, you know, deliver the baby successfully.
Yeah, that was an amazing story. I mean, it was so many points in that I call it the last chapter, right? of your story. You know, the first thing I want to touch on is with the last point you just said about being active. Like, if you're not high risk, you know, every mother's situation is different. But if you're not high risk and you're having a normal pregnancy, you know, most people think of pregnancy as being sick and like sit down and put your feet up. But if you want to keep moving, you want to keep your muscles limber. It helps with stress. It helps with your emotions. And I know me personally, my family didn't know this, but I was playing tennis up until 8 months. Like, no, they didn't know. They didn't know.
Competitive tennis.
Yeah, I was playing. I mean, it was
play tennis. She was on a
I was
tennis
playing
league.
like in a hot sun. I mean, I think that was a little extreme, but you know, I played competitively, and I played in a match in July for 4 hours, like a match for 4 hours, you know, but it does help with the labor, because if it's a physical experience, labor, and if you are lax and you get out of condition, it makes the labor so much more difficult. Absolutely. So that was a very, very valuable point to reference. And another thing that sticks out in my mind was when you talk about the mindset a mother must have during her pregnancy. And this world is conditioned to, you know, have you think you have to be safe from your birth. All these bad things are going to happen. And Hope, you were mentioning that you had to stay focused on the birth that you wanted. And I know we spoke at Temple before, and I was like, you have to have the affirmations and visualize the birth that you want, and surround yourselves. It could just be one person and everybody else has to go, but surround yourself with people that are going to support your birth plan. And I know when we spoke on the phone, like I knew, because there's 3 stages of birth and you were in transition. So when we spoke on the phone, I knew you were at the end. And at the end, that's when it's the most intense, but it's the shortest time. But I could hear in your breathing, even though it was so calm, maybe to you it felt like very stressful, but you were so calm. But they call it the throes of labor. And that's when you're just like, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, that's when you know the baby's about to come. Because I went through it with Saora. Like, I was at the last stage. I looked at Jamal and I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. And he was, you know, you need that person to say, You can do it. Like, go with the breath, go within and allow your body to do what it was meant to do. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you did. You got out of your own way and you allowed your body to open up so your baby can be birthed into the world. It's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
It really is.
It really is. Yes, yes. And I'm so glad that I was able to experience it. It was like, finally, it was really a dream come true. Like, I wouldn't imagine that I can do something like that, and to know, you know, that I have it in me. Like, I was made to do this. That's really how I felt. Like, wow, all this time I was holding myself back. All this time, you know, with fear or just allowing, like you said. And I do remember that conversation, you know, just having that support system or being around people, you know, that's going to support you in that manner. All of that makes the difference. It really does. And I'm like, wow, like, I got exactly what I wanted. I didn't, you know, it wasn't my intention to try to have the baby at home by myself.
Right.
But, you know, that's the way it happened, you know, and I'm grateful that it happened that way, because I wouldn't imagine they would have allowed me to labor, although I had written out my birthing plan and everything for the hospital and what I wanted and what I didn't want and how I wanted to labor. I don't think they was ready for it, you know.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't ready to allow me to be able to labor in the comfort of myself. And I think that's another thing that women need to be able to experience. You know, you have to know your body for yourself. I don't think anyone can tell you, you know, we're in our bodies, you know, for however long. And I don't believe that anyone can tell you how well your body works other than, you know, yourself. If you know your body, you know what's comfortable for you, you know what's uncomfortable for you, you know. And now comparing the two, you know, from laying on my back and being told to push, you know, the uncomfort in it just didn't work. And, you know, me being on all fours and actually just not pushing at all and just feeling the baby come out of me. It's like, wow, like, wow, that was just amazing. It's like, I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. Right.
Yeah.
Except I have the proof here.
Right. You tapped into your natural God wisdom of your body. This is what you were meant to do. All you have to do is just mentally focus, get out of the way, and just let you know that divine source take over. And and that's what happened. And when you're in a hospital and you're confined to the bed, it disrupts that level of harmony. Because I remember with Kim, you know, we were upstairs and, you know, she wanted to go downstairs. So we went downstairs and she wanted to go into her sister's room. So we went into her sister's room.
Yeah, I attempted to go downstairs and I said, no, I don't want to go downstairs. And I had a contraction. I was like, wait a minute.
We went to her sister's room and then she was like, I want to go back upstairs. So we went back upstairs. I want to go in the bathroom and sit on the toilet. I want to, you know, it's so we had the freedom to be able to do the things that she wanted to do, that her body, that her spirit was telling her to do. And what you did was you tapped into that divine source, that divine intelligence, and you listened from your very first pregnancy. Like, you heard that voice and you listened, because it's so many people that, you know, they hear something, but they're being told something else and they just go with the flow and just say, all right, well, I guess this is just, I really don't want to, and I don't feel right about this, but this is what I'm being told to do. This is what I'm going to do. And they stay with that and they keep doing that, and you allowed yourself to grow and blossom and come out of that. And, you know, nothing just happens, you know, it's all divine, because there is no coincidence that, you know, you started to labor, you go to the hospital and it stops. You know what I mean? That's not just a random incident. There's a reason why that happened. Yeah. Your baby didn't want to come there. It didn't want to enter this realm there. You know, it wanted to come where it was comfortable at, where you were comfortable at, and you put your mind, your intention on it, and the universe conspired with you to make that happen. And that's just an amazing story.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thank you. Like I said, I definitely credit you guys for being a major support.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Definitely. I said, you know, just being able to hear someone else be able to encourage you and, you know, have that patience, you know, it was like, that was like you said, I didn't even realize I was so I was at the end of, it. And, to hear you give me that final push, it was just like, wow, that meant a lot. It really did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that this has been such an amazing story for you that it has inspired you to go ahead and start working on a book, right?
Yes, indeed it has. I've recently been inspired to, write a book dedicated to womanhood.
Nice.
The reality of mothers, just a real life journey into motherhood. Something that I feel a lot of women don't share enough of their experiences, or maybe are ashamed, or or just don't know how to. I felt very much encouraged and inspired to share my story with other women, and just hope, my wish is to encourage young mothers and mothers to be back into the traditional methods of natural means to birth, and motherhood, just, period, from the before and after, to breastfeeding and, just everything natural. It's just a perfect experience, for not only the mom, but for the baby.
Yeah.
And I definitely am writing a book and looking to, having a book out soon.
That is great. Yeah, nice. Congratulations on that. And, Maha just talks about just the healing powers of birth. And it sounds like it was a healing experience for you. You not only gave birth to your daughter, but you gave birth to a new you.
Yes.
With new purpose. And that is great, and I think it's going to help a lot of couples, not just women and mothers to be. It's going to help a lot of couples, and once your book is done and you're ready to put it out, we'll have you back on the show to talk about it and to expose people to it, and whatever you have going on, we'll be sure to put that out there for our listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, thank you.
So before we go, I just want to let everyone know all the information that we spoke about in this episode. And Hope, is it okay if we put your Facebook page for people to reach you at, or did you want to wait?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so Hope's Facebook information, her contact information, we're going to list this all on the show notes page. So just go to jkhealthtribe.com/hope. That's jkhealthtribe.com/hope, and you can get access to all the information. And Hope, thank you once again for sharing your amazing story. It's going to help so many mothers and families to understand that they have choices in the birth of their children.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, thank you again for allowing me to share.
Yeah, and before we let you go, are there any parting words that you would like to share with our listeners?
Just for any mom that's out there, or any mom to be, mothers to be, definitely listen to your body. And, I encourage more moms to, educate themselves more on the things that they desire, before stepping into their motherhood journey, their journey of motherhood. Just read and don't be afraid to speak up and to, tell of your desires, what you want, and to stick to what is best for you or your child.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, we definitely thank you for having, we thank you for coming on our show. And we think we hear the baby in the background. we thank you for her presence here and there when we heard her. So, peace and blessings, sis, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe. To keep you on your path towards a happy, healthier lifestyle, we encourage you to visit jkhealthtribe.com for a free copy of the 8 effective ways to lose weight and keep it off, as well as more content to help you find your health balance. Thanks again, and we look forward to educating, empowering, and inspiring you to live healthier.